So when you're planning to build yourself the best bang for buck creator PC, which means just the most performance for your money, this video is going to be extremely valuable for you because I'm going to show you everything you need to know, as well as some of the upgrades, downgrades, like everything you need to know. I honestly think this is the best video you can get online, and you can see some other people recommending things, you know, what to build, but as a creator it's completely different. So if your budget is roughly around 2,500 to 3,000, then this is the video for you. Let's jump right in.
Looking for a cheap way to license your Windows? Check out WhoKeys through the links in the video description. Make sure to use the code TN20 to get a 30% off. Paste the license to the activation settings and you're all done. This license is for Windows 10, but you can upgrade it to Windows 11 for free. They also offer Microsoft Office 19 license. Use the same code TN20 to get a 30% off. Check out whokeys.com in the video description below.
By the way, if your budget is slightly different than in this video, there is a video for your budget in the description below. And those video links will always lead you to the latest video. Even if this video, what you're watching right now, is not the latest video, those links will always lead you to the latest video with the latest parts and latest offers. But also stick till the end of the video, where I've got to mention some very important things about how to build and other things you need to know before you actually start purchasing these parts. So let's go. Now, roughly around 2,500, and use the motherboard Gigabyte Z790 Aero G. This is the same we used in the previous budget, but for that money, I think you get everything you need as a creator, as well as video output through USB-C, multiple M.2 SSD support, as well as good design and good RAM support and front panel USB-C port. I mean, everything. This motherboard really has everything, I think. And the CPU we would be pairing with this motherboard is the 13900K. And if you didn't know, when using Gigabyte Z690 or Z790 motherboards, in BIOS there is actually a switch. When you switch it on, you're gonna get 6 GHz from this CPU. So this 13900K actually becomes 13900KS, which is about $200 more expensive with just one click, and I just saved you $200. That's why you're on this channel. Very important note about the pricing of these parts, because you see me, you know, showcase these parts on the shop and you can see some kind of price next to it. Most likely when you're watching this video, they are even lower, especially if you're watching this video during the holiday season. There's deals on for every single part, so I highly recommend checking out the latest pricing in the description below. This is a 24-core CPU, incredible CPU for creators. Whether you're video, photo or 3D creator, this is really good. Fast single core, really good multi-core score, and the P-core E-core structure really works well for video editors. I'm not sure if you knew this, but if you're working in Adobe Premiere Pro, for example, when you send your video to export in Media Encoder, you can still keep editing on the P-cores, but the E-cores start exporting the video, and you're not going to notice any performance difference when your video is exporting in the background, but you're still working on the next video doing some other edits. It's absolutely incredible. This architecture really works for creators, and I think actually a little bit more for creators than gamers, to be honest. The gamers got a little bit scammed for this, but for creators, this really works. It's absolutely amazing. And to cool this CPU, we're going to be using the Arctic Liquid Freezer 360mm AIO, as well as the contact frame from Thermalright, because that helps us not to bend the CPU when it gets hot, and overall the actual included kind of retention brackets on the motherboard isn't as good as this here. And this is, I know this is $17–18 here, but actually you can get it much cheaper. Have a look at the links in the description below, or just search this on Amazon. You'll find a lot cheaper options there. Better longevity for your CPU, and better thermals, and better performance even, because better thermals means better performance in the latest CPU architectures, because they just want to max all the thermals out to give you the best performance. The radiator and fans are thicker, which means more cooling performance and very quiet. Plus it also cools your VRMs with that little tiny fan on top of the CPU block, which is it just works. It's very good. I'm using it myself, by the way. For OS, we're going to be using the Solidigm P44 Pro, which is a really good SSD for operating system as well as project drive. They've actually made a mistake here. Look how they've written this, Solidigm. It's actually written like this, Solidigm. but the Solidigm, this is how you pronounce it. This is actually a combination of Intel and SK Hynix. They've come together and created this is absolutely incredible SSD. In fact, beating out the Samsung 990 Pro, if you didn't know that, and very good price point. Highly recommend checking out the review on the channel. For RAM, we're going to be using 64 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance, and this is 5600 mega transfers per second. I know not the fastest, but to keep the stability of the RAM, we're actually using this here. Now for upgrades, we're going to be upgrading the RAM a little bit, and just wait for the upgrades because it's not going to be the speed that we're upgrading, you'll see. Now if you do need more than that, just choose the upgrades to buy 2 of these sets and boom, you've got 228 gigabytes. Now the exciting bit, GPU. Which one of the GPUs should you be getting? And I would recommend getting an RTX 4080 for this price point. Right now, this is just under $1,100. There's 16 gigabytes of VRAM, really good 3D support. The RT cores, dual encoders, and AV1 encoding support makes this really the best GPU for just over $1,000. Yes, there is the AMD Radeon 7900 XTX that actually, have a look at the best GPU for creators, might perform a little bit better in certain aspects, and actually is a little bit cheaper and more VRAM, but for stability and software support, it's a little bit lacking. This RTX 4080 really is, like, I think general overall better performer and more stable drivers and stable performance, which for me as a creator is important. Now Nvidia, if you're watching this, you better pay me for this saying this, because the gamers and other people are getting mad on the channel because they're thinking I'm paid by you, but I haven't, so better pay up, okay? Can't wait for your comments down in the description below. So generally overall, looking at every single aspect, I would choose this 4080. Now I do wish it had more VRAM, but still it's very, very good, especially in 3D. It's absolutely unbelievable, like over 2 times better than what AMD offers because of the support and the RT cores and CUDA. It's just incredible. Anyway, if you haven't seen the review, go check it out, you'll see why. I'm going to be using Deepcool PX1000G. This is a 1000 watt power supply. It's also ATX 3.0 ported and fully modular, 80 plus gold power efficiency, which means very good for your energy bills, very efficient. 1 cable to your GPU, so you're not going to get a big cable mess. Modular, it's actually quite small and very quiet as well. A very good power supply for that amount. I think it's very, very good. And for the case, we're using the Antex Performance One full tower, and I'm using this case actually on my PC, on the main editing PC, what we're using there. It's incredible support for the cooling. You can get it in white as well if you want, slightly more expensive. But the fans that are included in this, there's 4 fans included, 120 millimeter, 30 millimeters thick fan, as well as 340 millimeter wide fans that are 30 millimeters thick. They're incredible for airflow, so you don't really need to upgrade any of the fans unless you like some RGB and blah blah blah, but really out of the box, one of the best fan supports you can get for this amount of money that you'll be paying for this. It also got a screen on top of the case that can tell you your temperature of CPU and GPU. If you quickly want to just gaze over and see the temperature, it's absolutely amazing. Now I do want to mention the honorable mention, which is probably my favorite design case, which is this Fractal Design North case, the black with the walnut in the front and the gold trims on the bottom, tempered glass. But this case is a lot smaller. And if you're having the higher end GPUs like the 4080s, as well as the big 360mm radiator, you might not actually fit everything inside the case just because it's just too kind of short. But depending on the cooling and parts you get, you might actually be able to fit these in there, and feel free to check it out because it's oh my word, this is like a piece of furniture, so beautiful. Now in total, I can see that with my calculations, this comes slightly above $2,500, and I'm doing this before the holiday season deals as well, which I'm expecting the prices to go down a little bit, especially with the 13900K, where we've got a new generation coming out. So you should be able to get this PC for around $2,500 to $2,600, which is incredible PC for that amount. I mean, if you look at what you can get from Apple or some of the pre-builds with much lower quality, This is incredible performance and it's gonna serve you a long time. Now, perhaps you've got a little bit more flex in your budget and maybe you can stretch it to $3,500, $3,600, something like that. Then here are some of the absolute killer upgrades that I would go for. Now, the motherboard upgrade option is the Asus ProArt Z790 Creator Wi-Fi motherboard, which is kind of the ideal motherboard for creators because we've got 10 gigabit LAN port, which usually costs around $100, and that's included there. So if you take that off the price and everything that's included in this motherboard, it's actually gives you a lot of, you know, performance for your money, a lot of specs for your money. If you did buy all of these specs separately, it's very, very good. Good design, very good M.2 support, very fast front panel USB-C, and 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, which support video output, and you're gonna get 3 months free Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, which makes this very, very good option, right? You're gonna get a lot off there, and this is the one that we are actually using as well in our case, and this might come actually cheaper or somewhere around there what we had in the previous budget, the Gigabyte Aero GZ790. But there's one thing I have to mention about this motherboard, which is the USB-C. Now, the back panel Thunderbolt for USB-C ports, they're not actually non-Thunderbolt compatible. So if you've got a lot of USB-C devices that are non-Thunderbolt, for example, external USB-C storage or card readers, then these back ports are really not going to work. They're just going to get you like very, very minimal, like USB 2.0 speeds or something like that, like 30, 40 megabytes per second, like ridiculous speeds, which is a big disappointment with this motherboard. And have a look at my, you know, upgrade kind of journey, why we've done this and how I've tested this and tried to get past this. But really, that's one of the downsides of this. But at the same time, if you do need Thunderbolt 4, perhaps, you know, you want to have some external hubs or docks or devices that use Thunderbolt 4, then this is a really, really good option, even with Thunderbolt display support. But at the same time, I've heard some issues with people with the Thunderbolt 4 support as well. So it kind of has the potential, but then with a little bit of a question mark how good this is. Now, if you're using this motherboard, I'd love to know your experience in the comment section below. So then the other option is this. This is the Gigabyte Z790 Aorus Master. Now, this motherboard actually gives you everything that Asus gives you. The 10 gigabit LAN, it only has one 10 gigabit port, not another 2.5 gig, what Asus has as well. But at the same time, this motherboard offers some of the things that Asus doesn't, and is $10 more expensive. But I think for most of the people, it might actually be better option for an upgrade, and here's why. Now, you don't get free 3 months Adobe Creative Cloud support, so that makes this motherboard actually a lot more expensive than the ProArt one. But here's some of the things that this motherboard allows you to do what Asus doesn't give you. Firstly, you've got very good USB-C support from the back. You've got 2 20 gigabit ports there, and then 1 5 gigabit USB-C port. So if you need a lot of devices, USB-C devices connected, then that's the one there. Now, what this motherboard doesn't give you is USB-C video output. Now, if you don't need that, this is probably not an issue for you and you're more interested in the other features. It's got 5 M.2 SSD support. Bear in mind, if you do occupy all of the 5, you will lose the 16 lanes of the main PCIe slot there, which might not actually be important for you. Even with 1490, it might not necessarily be an issue for you, but this does support Gen 5 SSDs as well. You've got a lot of very fast front panel USB-C ports as well as Type A ports, even a Dr. Debug LED, which is very, very good as well. 10 gigabit LAN port. So if you're not bothered about the Creative Cloud and you want a lot of good USB-C ports and more M.2 storage, and in fact, these are dual M.2 SSD storage support, so your SSD will have heatsink on the bottom and top. The Asus only has on the top, which is a little bit better there as well. So this is a very, very good option, high-end motherboard, and what I would recommend as well for creators because of the 10 gigabit LAN if you're using your NAS. 2 options for you there, depending which one you like more. But it's about $150 in upgrades. The CPU we're going to leave the same because with the Gigabyte motherboard, again, we can get KS performance, over 6 gigahertz support. The cooler we're going to leave the same as well, no need to upgrade that, as well as the SSD we're going to leave the same. But now for the secondary SSD, the project drive, for this price point, I would highly recommend Seagate Firecue 532 TB. This is a high-end Gen 4 drive that can get you up to 7.3 gigabytes per second, not gigabits, gigabytes per second performance, as well as incredible terabyte written spec. Now, if you don't know what terabyte written spec means for creators, then go check out my storage guide and I'll go more in depth for that. But this is one of the best like project drives you can get, where you hammer it with a lot of large assets or videos. Absolutely solid performer, this one. Now, in terms of RAM, we actually have an upgrade here, and not in terms of the RAM speed and frequency, which is still 5600 megatransfers per second, because I want to stick to the Intel IMC kind of spec, which is 5600 megatransfers per second to get the best stability. But we're actually going to be upgrading the latency of the RAM. It's CL28, not CL40 anymore, which means it's a little bit snappy and a little bit faster, but still within the spec there. So we get a little bit more performance depending on the applications there. I highly recommend checking this one out, but not that big of a price difference in terms of upgrade. Now, excitingly, the GPU, and we're going to be absolutely slamming it out with RTX 4090. For this price point, I think you should be getting a 4090 there, and we're getting the Gigabyte RTX 4090 WindForce, or have a look at the Zotac version as well, because Zotac can be very affordable. But this gives you a lot of VRAM, 24 gigabytes, whether you're doing 3D. I mean, this is absolute 3D monster. If you're doing any 3D, the rendering performance for this is incredible, absolutely insane performance. But also, if you're doing video editing, the 24 gigabytes is very important if you're working with larger than 4K resolution. But if you're a photographer, I wouldn't recommend getting this, but generally this is a really, really good card in video and 3D. For power supply, we're going to be upgrading this to Thermaltake Power 1200 watt 80 plus platinum, and this upgrade is going to give us a little bit more future support, very good warranty as well, 10-year warranty by the way. This is 80 plus platinum, which means that if you're a creator who works on your PC like every single day, at least 8 hours or something like that, and maybe leaves stuff rendering overnight as well, the efficiency is very important, because you don't want to pay a lot in your electricity bills because your power supply isn't efficient. So this is like as efficient as it can really get. Well, not quite, but really up there. So we're going to save in the long run, in the 10 years, this power supply, difference in terms of the efficiency will pay for it itself in 10 years for certain. And it's also got ATX 3.0 support. Use it with the upgraded GPU. If a 5090 comes out or 6090 comes out, you're still going to have that 600 watt power cable to just one cable that goes there, modular, quiet. I mean, it's got everything there. The case we're going to leave the same, as well as the optional option, which is the Fractal North design. If you do get this one and want to go with this case, I highly recommend the kind of downgrading your cooler to 240 millimeter AIO, because the front is not going to work, because the 4090 just fits inside. And don't forget the CPU contact frame for the 13900K. Now, this upgrade really is pretty much balls to the wall, and this is going to set you back roughly around $3,500 and is an extra $949.99 if you go with all of the upgrade options. Bear in mind, all of these upgrades are mix and match, so you can upgrade one and upgrade the other if you want, or decide which, how you want to spend your budget basically. But these are some of the upgrades I'd get. Also, if you want more of the SSDs, you can get more, because your motherboard has 4 or 5 in gigabytes there. Now, very importantly, if you don't know how to upgrade, and if you should upgrade, and actually sometimes don't upgrade certain parts in your PC, then check out my creator workflow and bottleneck video, where I'm going more into who should be upgrading in certain workflows, the parts, and which are more important to upgrade, and where you can experience some of the bottlenecks and how to find the bottlenecks actually. And also, if you spend some more time in the description, you'll find some very important videos that you should watch if you don't know how to build the PC or what to do with these parts once they arrive at home. So you can find a video there that explains how to build this video step by step. Just follow it and you can build it. How to set it up, like all the software, windows and drivers. That can go over your head, but it's very, very simple. Believe me, everyone can do it if you follow those guides. How to configure the fans and update the BIOS and everything. This video's down there, so you can just follow all of this guide and get it done within a day. Absolutely no problem. even if you've never built a PC before. Now, if your budget is actually slightly more than $3,500, then I wouldn't recommend upgrading anything else in here. Check out the next or last part in this video, which you can find in the description as well, where we're going to take the Create a PC to absolutely to the maximum. And perhaps, you know, if you want to splurge a little bit, I'll show you how you can build something absolutely, wow, intimidating. Thanks guys for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to put the bell on for new uploads, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.